You're with Johnny VEdmore on today's News Talk, TNT.
It's always a pleasure to talk with you. We've talked a fair few times now over the past year, and you've got such great energy, so I always like speaking with you.
Likewise.
You're currently investigating the ideology of major international bodies such as the UN. What can you tell
Correct.
people about the weird religious aspects of the United Nations?
So it is definitely weird indeed. I think we could argue that it's actually occultist. I think that would be a fair assessment. So the many people may know that the consulting spiritual body of the UN is called Lucis Trust. And this is the brainchild of Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey is, of course, the disciple of Madame Blavatsky, and she is the one who founded the Theosophical Society in 1875. And Theosophy, she's, kind of credited with popularizing the New Age movement. She certainly didn't create it. She certainly didn't create Theosophy. I would argue that it goes all the way back to maybe the Neoplatonists. I would even add maybe the ancient mystery schools. So, it's not new, but she definitely popularized it. And her disciple, Alice Bailey, created the Lucis Trust. It was originally called Lucifer Publishing. And actually, if you go to the website, they admit this, but they claim that it's not the same Lucifer. However, of their own words, they do say that it is the angel Lucifer. Many people would think that angel, the fallen angel, is Lucifer, Satan, the light bearer. But they claim that is not the same Lucifer somehow. But it very much seems like it is. But they changed the name. I think it was 2 years later. It was a little too on the nose for people. So they changed it to Lucis Trust. However, it is the spiritual underpinnings. They say right on the website that it is the consultancy for the UN. And I would argue that the UN, people think that it's a organization for peace. It's an organization to, navigate and negotiate conflicts between nation states. However, I think really what it is designed to do is to create this one world religion. And Theosophy is very convenient for ushering that in because it is a very inclusive religion. They say they accept all religions with the exception of Christianity, conveniently. So they don't specifically say this, but if you look at the writings of Madame Blavatsky herself, she says that Christianity is diametrically opposed to Theosophy. So
Wow, that's pretty
yeah,
big, isn't it? To choose something
yes.
that's opposed to God and I mean,
Yeah.
they
And I
based it on good Lucifer, not bad Lucifer.
Good Lucifer, the light bearer. Yes,
Yeah.
one might say the false light, but yes, it is. They believe he is the light bearer, and there's a lot of evidence to indicate that this is what they are trying to do. They're trying to usher in this one world religion. Many of the players, and it's very, very relevant now because the New Age movement has kind of morphed as it typically does, right? So now we have what is called the New Thought religion. These are people who are they believe in conscious evolution. I've done several shows on this now, and they show this spiral. People like Barbara Marx Hubbard will talk about co-creating, and they show this spiral which looks a lot like the Hegelian dialectic. And for those people who may not be so familiar with the Hegelian dialectic, the really important thing just to understand is that Hegel believed that the state equal God. And he actually believed that human beings could have no freedom without complete subservience to the state. And if you look at this spiral that he talks about, and the spiral that they're talking about, it really looks like Jacob's ladder, which I think is a Gnostic Jacob's ladder, because they believe Theosophy actually means divine wisdom. And they believe through theurgy, which is the divine work, that they could achieve gnosis that would essentially turn them into gods, and that they could talk to these ascendant masters who they channel. People like Alice Bailey wrote 24 pieces of work that she claimed were channeled through GK, Joel Kuhl, and then it was Kumi. always mispronounce the name, but who Madame Blavatsky channeled. And actually, the Society for Psychical Research determined that she was a fraud because it just got so absurd with all of these, ascendant masters that she was channeling, and all of these, creations that were supposedly, handed down through these channeling events. But they made it very convenient. It was called the Columbus Affair, and the papers like magically disappeared, and it was essentially just a way for them later, the Theosophists, to have good standing to say, oh well, their claims that she was a fraud was really, not. It was on a technicality, and that they would have claims to be able to come back and defend. But now we have these, it's become very popularized throughout the New Age movement, and these people who are, thought leaders, influencers, daytime television people like Oprah have popularized them throughout the past several decades. And these people are very deceptive. And I think that's why it's so important for people to understand what's going on, because a lot of people are seeing a lot of very prominent influencers and media figures who are converting to Christianity right now. And this is not to wish ill on them. This is not to, say that I'm not cheering for people if they found a belief system that works for them. Of course, I support that. I want that for everyone. But I believe in freedom of consciousness. And, right now we still have freedom of consciousness. However, these people really want to take that away. And they're very deceptive about it. They're doing it under the guise of things like Christ consciousness, which is right out of Blavatsky's writing. This is not Christ as in the biblical Christ. They believe Christ was an ascended master. And so he is just, another one of these channeled ascendant masters that they're talking. So when they say Christ consciousness, that's what they mean. And this has become, so it's a lot of these media figures, a lot of these popular influencers are now speaking this language, and it is very deceptive. And I do think that their goal is to try and usher in this one world religion. And they talk about, so when they talk about this spiral, the top of the spiral is this superhuman organism. So it's this humanity versus individual human. They claim that they are anti-Darwinian, and really, I think they're just neo-Darwinian. They have cherry-picked and taken aspects of evolution that they like and that works for their new religion. But what they oppose is the part of natural selection that breeds competition, because they say that places too much value on the individual, and that has hurt us tremendously, and that will be the end of humanity as a species. And if we want humanity to evolve, we need to favor cooperation and collaboration, and essentially the collective conscious. That's really, and of course, what is that consciousness? That is the internet. And what did we talk about the last time I was here? The AI World Society. And that's really what they're priming all of this for. And I think we also talked about Tavistock. Tavistock's very involved in all of this. There's a document, it's called Politics 3 from Abraham Maslow. It was from his unfinished works. And they compiled it in the early 2000s and they published it. And he talks about a lot of these concepts that really paved the way for, so he talks about self-actualization, and we think of self-actualization in terms of the individual, but in his document he makes it very clear that for politics we really need this to be a collective self-actualization, and that is what Politics 3 is all about. So
this is Johnny VEdmore on today's News Talk TNT.